What would you do, whether you be the nurse, the CNA, the DON, or a family member? What would you do if you arrived to a facility and you noticed that your loved one that you have just placed was not properly cared for? All right. So, a little background. All right. I received a disturbing call yesterday from a family member who went to go visit our loved one. And unfortunately, he was saturated. You can tell from his sheets that he had um, voided, and then it dried, and then he voided again, and then on top of that, his sheet was also full of feces. All right. Imagine him walking into your patient's room like that. Imagine walking into your loved one room like that. Imagine being the DON or the administrator, and you walk and you see this patient that was just admitted within 24 hours left like this. Okay, that's what happened. And it took me a while to respond because I really didn't want to do a blame game. I wanted to use this for education for both sides, both as families and for facilities. Okay, so there were a couple things that happened here. So when I got the call, I immediately told my sister to, find out the DON's name, find out the administrator's name, who's manager on duty, get the number for the ombudsman of that facility, take a picture of the staffing sheet, and see what their staffing is supposed to be for the day. And let's go from there. Okay, we found out that the staffing sheet that was posted was actually for February, so that's very disturbing also. But it was so much more to this. Okay, not only was he not cared for, the patient also had a fall and we weren't notified. All right, so there was just so many different events that occurred, and I want to use this as a learning experience because unfortunately this does happen in so many facilities, and this is why I teach what I teach when it comes to whether you're the DON all the way down to the CNA. All right, number one, you have to do your due diligence and protecting your nurse license, your CNA registry, but then you need to make sure that the patients who are there, who are under your care, are being cared for properly. And when this happens, what do you do? Okay, so I started looking at it from a legal standpoint as if I was a surveyor, based off what I observed. All right, yes, we have photos, and the photos told me that it wasn't a clean, safe, and home-like environment. The photos told me that it was negligence. The photos told me that he had not had any type of care done. There also wasn't any basin in the room. All right, so and he had a meal tray that had his urinal on top of his meal tray. Now, granted, he can move his upper extremity, so yeah, he might have put that there, but still. There was a staff member that kept coming in, but kept flipping her ID badge over because she didn't want to be identified. And it doesn't matter because all we have to do is pull a staffing sheet and pull the assignment sheet and know who it is. So you hiding your ID badge doesn't really matter. But again, like I said, this happened within 24 hours of the patient being there. This had happened. So then I started thinking, I can't even imagine what happens to the other residents who have been in this facility long term. So I want to use this as a teaching experience for you as DONs, to start being on the floor more, start knowing what's going on in your building more. All right, if you were getting an admission on a Saturday, either your manager on duty should have been involved with that patient, you should have been involved with your patient, because the staff member said, oh, we didn't know anything about him. But just because you didn't know anything about him, does that mean you don't go and find out information about him? So there was just about 6 citations that I saw just with this one patient. And again, I'm gonna bring it back to was in the facility for 24 hours. So in 24 hours, did we develop a care plan to go over his continence? He must have, because he did have a urinal, but he has mixed incontinence, right? He can void, and then sometimes he's incontinent. How did he fall? Did he fall simply because he was saturated and had feces in the bed and was trying to get away from it? Or perhaps he fell trying to get to the bathroom, and then he couldn't make it. So how did he fall? What intervention did we put in place when he had the fall? Okay, and we didn't do notification to the family either. about the fall. So there were a couple things in there that like I said, I didn't want to do a blame game. I really wanted to use this as an example to tell you we have got to do a better job when it comes to taking care of our residents. We have to do a better job when it comes to providing support for our facilities. If you know that you're not properly adequately staffed on a weekend, then you shouldn't be accepting admissions on a weekend. Okay, and I get it. I am all about budget, and you have to have heads and beds, and I know you have to make your profit margin. However, you put yourself at risk, and you put your nurses at risk, your patients at risk when you are not adequately staffed, and then accepting an admission on top of that. Okay, so my family went and talked to the administrator today, and he said that, oh, the administrator was on it. I'm sure, and I hope that the administrator does really follow up, because this whole situation was definitely a call to the Department of Health because of what we had observed within a 24-hour period. All right, and then on top of that, we went back in the evening time, and he was still again saturated. So I am curious to see what the staffing numbers were for that day. But we have to really do better. So when I'm telling you guys, hey, when you get an admission, make sure that your team knows about the admission. Make sure you put in how that patient voids and how they transfers so that this doesn't happen. When you the manager on duty and you get that new admission, make it your business to go and see that patient. He didn't even have a basin in his room. And it was 1 o'clock, almost 2 o'clock the next day, and no basin in the room. Nothing to say that he had any type of ADLs provided for him. All right, the urinal with the meal tray, okay, an infection prevention and control citation. So again, I want us to look at this as a learning experience, but I want your thoughts. What would you do? Because a couple days ago, I put out a video talking about core values, and as a nurse, you need to have core values because you need to know when you need to stand on business. This was a situation where I said, oh no, we need to stand on business, okay, because we can't keep admitting patients when we know we don't have the proper staff to care for the patient. Okay, so I wrote up quite a few things because like I said, I was just so overwhelmed with anger. Okay, I was angry because two populations that I don't like to mess around with, and you will F around and find out. I don't play when it comes to patient care, period. But when it comes to our children and it comes to our elderly population, especially those without a voice who have lost their voice, meaning they are relying on us for everything, I have a big issue to make sure that we are meeting their needs. And I don't play about patient care, period. Okay, so I just was thinking like, oh my God, if that was my mother, if that was my father, if that was, even if it wasn't my loved one, a patient, period, no one should ever be treated like that. But the reality is, guys, it happens so frequently. All right, so I want you as nurse leaders, please, know how to manage your building, know when to advocate for your facility, for your staff, for your residents. Okay, stop taking admissions if you don't have the staff to do it. Okay, and then if you are a family member and you're placing your loved one at a facility, I highly encourage you to research the facility, see what their surveys have been like, see what their staffing numbers are like, because if they don't have the staff, the reality is, if you don't have staff, you really can't do great care. All right, so drop me a comment, tell me what would you do in this situation. I would like some feedback. All right, as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and follow for more tips. Have a great day.